Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Very good to hear. Will you please tell us your name and share a little bit about yourself?
My name is Alisha Cornell, and what I have to share today is that uh, overall, I feel like I have been through many things. I've experienced a lot. It is a reality to me now that diversity and inclusion is a real thing, and that many people in this world have experienced inequality, and we just don't know what has happened to us because our internal strength and motivation to keep climbing over every obstacle really allows us to ignore what others are doing negatively and to keep ourselves focused on our goals.
Excellent.
And that's just me.
So, where do you live?
I live in Morrisville, North Carolina. It's right outside of our city capital in Raleigh, and it is a very brown town, but brown from all over the world. It's a wonderful place to see different cultures. My neighborhood, actually, we chose because it was from everyone around the world, and I wanted to. I wanted to understand the immigrant story a little bit better and how they survive here in the United States. And I've met some wonderful friends and been introduced, deeper introductions into a lot of different cultures and seeing how people are growing and prospering. And we are learning, we are in the middle of people who are overcomers. And my husband and I, we just connect with them. And it's a very beautiful relationship and a very beautiful neighborhood.
Excellent. And what do you do for a living?
Right now, I am a clinical implementation consultant. I am a subject matter expert in clinical practice excellence, and I also am a part-time professor for different universities and their schools of nursing.
Excellent. Very, very good. So, how did you come to Durham? How did you end up here? What was your journey to arrive in Durham?
Well, after I graduated, actually I have to go back even farther than that. When I left high school, I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. My mom moved to Fayetteville. She got remarried. And during high school, I realized that unless I married someone who was in the military, and I grew up on the military base part of the time, that this wasn't a place for me. So I spent um, the rest of my time focused on getting out.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I did. And I found myself at North Carolina State University, and I was majoring something that I didn't like. And I actually fell in love with my husband. He was my husband then. Moved back to Fayetteville. We had our son, and I went to nursing school. I've always been smart and always loved to learn. And I liked nursing for a lot of different reasons, but I also found that it was something that I could do well at. It was something that I could give back to people and help people. And my first job was at UNC Hospitals, and we moved. And my father, we actually reconnected. I hadn't seen him in almost 20 years, and we reconnected. And he lived in Durham, and so my biggest thing was I wanted to allow my father to be a grandfather
Mhm.
to my son, to our son, and we actually became best friends
That's right.
through that. So it was really just my family, and I didn't know Durham. I did not know the history of Durham. I had kind of, being in Raleigh, I kind of heard about it. And when I came to Durham, I found out so many historical things about the Black people and having Wall Street. Central, I knew, ended up volunteering at the first community hospital for Black people. I did not know that it was that because it had been taken over by Duke at that time that I was there, but got a really good, really, really deep, impactful history about Durham, and not just from the Black community, from the white community, and I saw something different. I saw hope
Yeah.
and purpose,
Yeah.
and wanting to take care of each other. And it was really a small place. It's a southern small place, but it was beautiful because I didn't know that. And there's a movie with Taraji P. Henson, and when we went to go see the movie, it all just kind of connected for me. Like, they've been through everything, but together they're doing these things together. And then I worked at Duke, and I taught at Duke over the summer, and and they will call themselves out about things they're doing wrong, and no, we're going to fix this. And so it was beautiful to live in Durham. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing.
And how did you decide to become a nurse? What was your goal there?
Really, honestly, I was very, very close. My great grandmother raised me, and I was very, very close to her. And she died of colon cancer. And we would go visit her in the hospital. And at the time, I was 7, and so my visits were limited. My mom lived. My family was like, it was too much for me to see from her. I felt at peace when I was always around her, and seeing her in the hospital, I just wanted to take care of her. And in my mind, being a nurse, even though she had passed on, I just wanted her to be proud of me and know that I became the people that I saw taking care of her and helping her, and helping her transition, because she transitioned in the hospital, that I wanted to be one of those people that did that for her, because she was never upset in the hospital, and she was never treated bad, and she died very peacefully in the
Mhm.
hospital.
So, what you do now? You said you are a subject matter expert in clinical research. Is that what I heard you say?
Clinical practice.
Clinical practice. Can you
Yes.
tell us what that is, and how did you go from being a nurse to this role?
I don't know how that happened. It was a series of events, but the role is, what I do right now is I help. I actually consult with organizations that purchase one of our products, and so one of the things that I consult on are assessments, and it actually evaluates the nurse's clinical knowledge, and we have knowledge domains, and I translate that data into opportunities for growth and learning for the nurse, and also looking at organizations. I forecast really their predictability about how their nurses will perform, and areas that they need to pay more attention to, and help them. They usually develop their own vision, and then I develop a strategy to help them reach their goal. And so usually it is beginning with professional development and acknowledging the areas of concern through the testing, and how to build the nurse up. It's not to eliminate them, it is to help them continue to practice effectively. I started out, to be honest with you, in all transparency, I began as an orthopedic and trauma nurse. And I really loved it. It was very, very hard. I was the only Black nurse on my floor at the time that I was hired. And then I moved to night shifts, and I was one of 3 Black nurses. And I had a lot of help from the veteran nurses, the seasoned folks, to really learn nursing and learn practice. And all of that theory and all that fluff and all that great stuff that we learn, and we get all these degrees, they were like, really, and at the time I had an associate's degree, they were like, yeah, that's all great. If you don't know how to take care of these patients, then none of that matters. And so I spent a lot of time there, and then I moved to inpatient rehab as a nurse manager. I got derailed because I was influenced a lot by titles and making more money. And my focus on taking care of the patient moved to, basically, how can I get famous here at this hospital? I mean, in simplest of terms, that's the best I can say, is that I really moved my mind into thinking about, I was only important if I had a title. And that really came through how I felt I was treated. And the reality of it was, how was I treating myself? More than it was how others were treating me, it was how I treated myself. And I climbed that ladder really, really fast, and I crashed, and I had a mental breakdown. And when I lost my job, I got fired. And I would say now looking back, I wanted to be fired. I didn't want it after I got it, but because was raised to be committed and doing what doing anything, I stayed.
Mhm.
And I didn't like the job. It was very overwhelming. There were a lot of things that I didn't know. I moved too fast. And once I got there, it was overwhelming. I didn't understand a lot of things. But when I went home and I was terminated, a lot of different things happened in my family life, my personal life. It was very hard. It was devastating. I saw it as a huge failure on my part. It took 9 months for me to get a job. And the very first job that I had was a liaison for implementing Epic,
Mhm.
electronic health record. I had been on so many interviews. I had almost gotten a couple of jobs and then just devastated at the end when it didn't happen. I overlooked, they had asked me for months. I had an email sitting in my email that I had read, and I ignored it because it was technology. And I was like, I don't want to do technology.
Mhm.
I want to be back in patient care. That wasn't even the right move. And so when I didn't have anything else, I was humble. I humbled myself. I picked up the phone. It was months later. And I just asked her, I said, do you all still need this help? Because I need a job. And she was like, absolutely, come to work on Monday.
Mhm.
And I went to work there. I was a liaison. It was a contract position. And I tried to learn everything. I tried to absorb and learn everything because I knew at the end of the contract, it lasted for about a year. I knew at the end of the contract that I would be back in the same position again. And if they had a job opening, it was Duke University Hospital, if they had a job opening there, I was going to get it.
Mhm.
And I did. And that's what happened is I networked. I learned as much as I could learn. I was, became a good resource. And when it was time to get hired, the director, he asked me, do you have any experience, with in the OR for the operating room? Because that's the only position that we have open right now. And I thought to myself, I do. I didn't, but I had enough. I felt like I did because I had worked with our PACU nurses on our trauma floor. And, I kind of knew it. And I was like, whatever, I need this job. I really do. And I got hired. And then I fell in love. And I fell in love and realized that all of that I thought was a failure was only a path to what I liked. I had always loved technology. I always loved to teach. I always loved to be a part of a project team and to learn things. And it opened my eyes and my ears to really understanding the role of the nurse and how important it is for you to be a proficient bedside nurse and how it really impacts patient care, but also how much people are charged
Yeah.
for the care that they get. And so that's how I found technology. And then I finished my master's in it, and then I got a doctorate, my DNP, and focused on executive leadership and informatics and clinical practice. And I would never go back, Rochelle. I love technology now. I see it's important, it's evolving. I see how it's used to help people make decisions, subjective decisions. And also for nursing, we really do need a metric for practice. And it's important to healthcare for nurses to really be involved. And everyone doesn't have to be a leadership title. There is a need for strong nurses still at the bedside and to help teach those that are coming into the discipline.
Thank you for that. That's very, very helpful. Let me ask you this. So you talked about being, the only Black nurse, when you're your one job, and then the other one you among three. Has nursing changed enough that it is a diverse field and that there are parity in nursing for Black and brown people?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I feel that seeing people that look like me or you helps other people want to be in nursing. I feel like it helps them because they see it and they can hear it from somebody else that they want to be a nurse. For me, it was seeing a CNO that was Black, a Black woman, and she was very motivational, very, very encouraging, and not just a pat on the back. She actually said, would you like to join me at these meetings? Would you like to hear and listen and see what I do? And it was very encouraging for me to see that I could be more than what I thought. It was very eye-opening. She came from very humble background, same kind of similar story as I did. And to see her to be elevated to that position, I felt like it was an opportunity for me at some point, maybe not at that hospital, but just at some point that I could achieve those same things. I think we need more of that. I think we need more leaders, not just at the manager level. I see it a lot, but we need more leaders at the VP, CNO, and even the CEO organization for the hospital, for people, for other nurses to believe that this can become a reality for them. They can be successful in nursing.
Absolutely. So let me ask this next question. This question has to do more with you as a Black woman. So you've talked a lot about your careers, your successes, and some small shortfalls. As a Black woman, do you see yourself, you personally see yourself as valuable, but do also your colleagues that work with you in your organization and people external to you, do you find yourself valuable? Do you find people finding value in you and recognizing you simply for the talent you have versus the color of your skin or any other physical characteristic?
Wow. I'm gonna go with my gut. My gut says no. My gut says until I prove myself, do they then find me valuable? I have found myself in situations where I have been told that I was young in my career, that I was inexperienced, that I didn't know how to execute a strategy. And these were comments by people who were non-clinicians and who didn't understand how to look at a person like me. And it is very hard. It is if I allowed it to be traumatizing, it could be very detrimental mentally to what I think about myself, because I always have to check in and say, don't believe the lies, because those are all lies. It made me a fighter and a survivor, because I was determined to not allow anybody to say those things, because I don't wear the weight of my community on my shoulders. But I feel like if anybody is to come behind me, I'm going to help pave the way for them. Just like everybody else has paved the way for me, I'm paying it forward to that generation behind me by continuing. I feel like the value has been not for me. The value has been in other people that now are forcing those people that either hire or in those positions to allow a different perspective, to force them to listen to me, or at least to put me in a position. And then the rest of it is me forcing them to believe that I'm actually valuable in those positions. Yeah. So that's really how I feel.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That was really, really great. So let me ask you the obvious question. Did you see the death of Mr. Floyd?
I did. No, I didn't watch it. I just read about it. I couldn't watch it. I could not watch it because I had watched a Mike Brown video. I watched another gentleman who was shot in the back by the police. And my husband's godnephew was beat by the police. And I watched my husband and the family go view the body in the coroner's office. They were told that he died of asthma, never had asthma, in the jail cell. Beat, he had dreadlocks, locks, beat, his head was split open, and I had to listen to the family. And the medical examiner's office was at UNC Hospital. I was at work the day the family came to view the body. And they also, very country, they dug the grave. I didn't need to see Mr. Floyd because I already saw him. And the fact that he was, and I have a son, a young son who has had an incident with the police as a college student. And when I read that he was calling out for his mother, I actually broke down. I didn't want to have any more conversations. It was conversations at my job. I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted to grieve. My father also had passed in March. It was too much. I was like, I can't do this. And I know I have brothers, my husband, to hear them say all the time how they are avoiding the police, not afraid, just avoiding the police, and having to prepare themselves at such an early age to deal with the police. And my husband has been profiled, actually beat a case in New Jersey with Johnny Cochran on Black profiling. So it runs deep for me. So I was like, I can't see it because I can't see this other Black man lose his life for no reason, Just get arrested. He could get arrested, go through the judicial processes like anybody else, any other human.
And be sentenced to 400 years for possibly a fraudulent check. So that's
exactly.
the other side of the equation.
Yeah, that's the other side is, and it is, we've had family members sentenced to 20 years for a bag of weed.
Yep.
And you're like, they didn't kill anybody. They weren't a part of anything. They just happened to be in the wrong place and the wrong skin. And now they have, spent, one of them actually just was released. And the amount of mental problems that he has are tremendous. And, thank God he actually started going to a counselor and started really dealing with it, because he is almost 50 years old, but he is 28 because he lost
all that
20
time.
plus years of his life.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I asked you, did you see Mr. Floyd's death? And I've heard a lot of people say what you just said. No, I have not been able to watch it. I'm pretty old. I have some dinosaurs in my family, so that's how old I am. But what happened to Mr. Floyd has been happening for years. So from slavery to today, right?
Yep.
Mr. Floyd was killed on the 25th, and 2 weeks later, a Black man was killed because he fell asleep at a restaurant's drive-through window. It's the kind of thing that constantly raises to your mind. Do our colleagues, our white colleagues, see us as human? And not simply broadly, because that's a broad question. But I'm talking about, so what you were describing about your work. So the people in your job, the white people and other ethnicities that you work for in your job, do they see you as a person? Do they see you as human? So in other words, if your child catches a cold, or if your husband, has to go out of town and you have to go pick up the kids early, all those things where we make concessions. And the reason why I asked that question specifically that way is because, and a lot of times, Black and brown people are not afforded the luxury of having a 2-hour lunch, or going wherever you need to go, or doing whatever you do, being out sick, if something is going on, there's a lot. So that's really what my question was really about. Are you human, and do they see you as who you really are, like no different from themselves?
I would say yes. I have seen that they don't, how they take my clinical knowledge is different, but when I say I need to be away today, it's no question. It's like, okay, go ahead, take the time you need. The humanness of them comes from the work that we do. If somebody is unhealthy, it is not good for business. And I think in the world's most twisted way, it makes them it forces them to have to see everyone as a human being, because they know that if they have unhealthy people working in the organization, they as transparent as possible, they don't make money.
Right.
And so there is a huge push for them to treat us as humans, and to respond and respect that people have problems. Now, we have people within the organization that they don't like that. I know they don't like that. That is and our culture has shifted to this. In the beginning, it was, per person, but now our entire culture has shifted to, if the employee needs time off, if the employee is having a problem, you must make sure that they are taken care of. It has shifted to that. And so now I can say, yes, if I were, there were some days over this summer that I would call my leader and say, I can't work anymore today. We're all working from home. And she would say, Alisha, work when you can. Do you have any clients today that you have to actually physically have a conversation with? No. I was worried about my productivity and my time, and I talked about it. As long as I'm vocal and verbally saying to them, this is something that I'm facing, then they will say, okay, we'll work around it. We'll think of a solution, if you need some time off now. On the flip side, I will say that it is my effort and hard work that has probably helped to let them be able to see the human side of me. And to be honest, and they all know, I have spazzed out on them before when I felt like that they were not treating me fairly.
Mhm.
And it was a very human side of me that they got to see, because for a little while, I kind of read this thing with Beyonce, and then Kerry Washington had also said it, like they didn't believe people in their industry actually saw them as Black because of who they are and how neutral they are, and that, they just are loved by everybody, a diverse fan base. And I thought about that in Oprah too, and then I was like, one day I said, yeah, no, I'm Black, y'all. Like, I'm not, I can't allow people that I know that work here to be treated or they feel a certain way by y'all, because y'all treat me like I help, renewals, I help bring money to the organization. So you treat me a little different, but you're treating me green. I'm green to this. I don't see it yet. And Mr. Floyd really brought that, as we were all at home, and COVID brought that to light for me, that I am Black. I'm very Black. We actually, I started even reading more. I actually started reading Asada Shakur's book, because I was like, no, 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 no. My husband recommended, he said, you need to read this book. And I read James Baldwin over again, because I was like, no. And I have family members in my that are close to me that have went through desegregation and civil rights, and they did all that stuff. And I was like, let me tap into that side of me, because I don't really think these people see me as Black. They see me, but they don't really notice that I'm actually Black. Because of how I'm acting. And yeah, I had to bring it to their attention. But overall, they do see us as human, and we're beginning to get more outliers who are forced, because this is a culture expectation now, that we don't treat people poorly. And so I see it. And one of the things is that I'm amazed, because sometimes my white colleagues, I know that they are waking up, and we'll have these conversations, and they say things about how they felt, people they've been around who've been racist,
Mhm.
and how they don't like that, and they didn't even know it. And one time the conversation was so heavy, I cried afterwards,
Yeah.
because I was like, she explained to me how she never even cared about any of it, because it never impacted her. And then continued to talk about best friends that she had that were actual racists, and she knew it, and that's who she was around. And I had to cry, because she also talked about how she removed herself from those people, and the difficulty that she had. And I just said, like, we don't never know, like, but she's worked for years and years and years. And I said, but you don't know who you sit next to.
Yeah.
And people can wear, for all lack of better words, a mask,
Yeah.
and you don't know that. And I was raised to believe that I respect the races more when you tell me who you are, because at least I know what to expect from you. I don't really care to have people sitting beside me and hate me,
Right.
and hate who I am as a person. I was born Black. I didn't get a choice.
Right. So I wanted to say a couple of things about some of what you just said, right? So a lot of conversations I have with my white friends and people who do these chats with me, uh, racists exist in my family. You know, they're some of my friends,
Hmm.
and I always ask, what do you do to address that? And a lot of them have said, you can't unchange person's mind. Somebody believes or holds a perspective that this is this, and this is where it is. And so when I kind of think about some of the things that you just described, I've not been as fortunate as you. You know, I experienced microaggressions and all that stuff. I can't even begin to tell you, but I am very happy to hear that you have, support, and you are, recognized for what you do. When you said that you spazzed, if I would have spazzed, I would have been fired.
Hmm.
So I'm not allowed to have my true emotions or who I am. I wrap up in a mask because I can't be who I really am. I have to be appeasing to the people that work with me and work around me, because they have to see me as not an angry Black woman, or not see me as the person that's on the edge of going postal, for lack of a better word, right? So there's that. But then, more importantly, in our society, these conversations that white people specifically are having raises a question for me. So I grew up in South Carolina. I grew up extremely poor, went to a predominantly white school that was integrated, but I think it was very slowly integrated. So there wasn't a lot of Black people at the school. And my history book told me that Christopher Columbus discovered America. My history book told me that Black people were not smart, and we were. It was a gift that they brought us here to America because the conditions in Africa were so appalling for them, right? So that's what my history book told me. So as I have grown, I always wonder, where you have all the money in the world, all these predominantly white schools, all the private schools, all the other things that many white people have. Where in your history books did it tell you about Jim Crow, pig law,
Hmm.
slavery, lynchings, and all of this? So you're waking up now. But I want to know, when you were reading that, were you just skipping past that page? I don't care about that. I don't need to know, skipping past that page. Because Black and brown people have been dying by the hundreds for years, right?
Hmm.
And in Texas, there was a man named James, I can't think of his name right now. He was tied by his neck to the back of a truck and drugged for 3 miles and
Yeah.
decapitated. Now, to me, that's an outrage moment right there. That's a moment for all of us to be up in arms and like, okay, this is just absolutely absurd. Why is it the movement with Mr. Floyd's death so pertinent now? And I will just add this caveat to it. Many people have said it's because of the pandemic and they're stuck at home eating and watching TV.
I believe that. I really do. And when I spazzed out, I was scared. I was scared to death that I would lose my job because I my mom would tell me all the stuff, my grandma, just people like yourself and all the things that I read. And I went to a Black traditional high school, even though I went to a white, school for college. I went to a very Black traditional high school that taught us a lot about real history. And I was scared to death. I was so scared that I had a panic attack one day in the car with my son because I thought I was being followed. Because it was a realization that this can go very wrong for you at any moment of time. Somebody can be that angry with you for you standing up for yourself. And I actually was a chair of our diversity and inclusion committee, and I evaluated our senior leaders, rules, regulations, policies, everything. And I was terrified because I always said, I never thought I could have the courage that people from the civil rights era and before ever had. And to just be Black and could be killed for walking down the street. I never thought that I would be ever in a position that I would ever have to have that fight, because I was like, I would be terrified. I would be scared to death. I don't know if I could have that confidence to do what they did, to just know that looking wrong could get you killed. Sitting at home and having to hear it day after day after day, and having to read it and having people stand up about it, it's almost like the world had to actually stop for people to realize that Black people are being treated like animals, and to really think about the long-standing generational impact that chattel slavery had on Black America in this country. And even when slavery ended, you know, like, it was crazy, because I thought about my husband and I, we went to St. Croix, and the chickens were roaming free, and they were, I was really, we went during COVID, because they didn't have a lot of COVID cases, and we needed to go away. And I took a horseback ride, through a sugar plantation, and they told the story about how the slaves burnt the plantation down all over St. Croix and took back their freedom. And it was so encouraging and so motivating to see, like, as a group, of not having that fear and saying this isn't fair and this isn't right, and seeing, you know, and people now. And it was, to me, I cried one day, and I cry a lot. I cry for everything, but I released the emotion of that we are finally being heard because of a pandemic, and the world actually had to be put on pause by nature, by natural, by, you know, for me, it is by God, that will, um, that made people say, oh, this is actually happening. This is actually not fair that my friends have to live their life like this. Like you said, people that, and I know people, and they tell me, oh yeah, my uncle's a racist, I don't talk to him, you know, and it's like, but you know, it's not that he's a racist, it's the fact that he has other friends that will find that it's okay to kill a child,
Right.
to rape a woman, to, you know, beat a man, and to make him feel inferior. And what are you really afraid of? And then I thought about, even living in the neighborhood I live in now, I thought about, do you feel the same way? Because your skin is also brown, and we had these conversations, but do you feel, are you a white empathizer? And do you know what they did to us? And do you know how they feel about you? And even though they do business with you and you go to school with their children, do you know what they really think about you behind closed doors? Because I can guarantee you one thing, everybody isn't a kumbaya rainbow tribal person. And you have some people who don't care. And the only reason why they are okay with you is because you have money.
Right.
And you're able to purchase things, and you're able to be at the country club with them, but they still don't like you.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alisha, for this chat. This has
You're
been
welcome.
absolutely wonderful. As soon as the video converts, I will send you a link. Please review it and make sure it's okay, and let me know if I may upload it. I also put something in the chat for you, so please look at that if you can, and stay in touch.
I sure will. I sure will. And I've got that information. I'm copying and pasting right now. Thank
Okay.
you so much. This was so amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, anytime you want to come back and talk some more, I always tell people subscribe to the channel and come and talk as often as you want to.
Okay. Thank you so much. I needed this today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.